Scotland have a great record against Croatia in international football. We beat them more often than not, but unfortunately that could not be said tonight at club level as Scottish champions Celtic had to settle for a 0-0 draw against Dynamo Zagreb. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. It was a point apiece in Croatia, a point for Zagreb, a point for Celtic. Will it be a good point? Will it be a bad point? We'll know after the next couple of games. Now, we're going to look at how the Celtic fans react. We're also going to have a quick look here at the table and we're going to see what this point does for Celtic. But by no means do I think this is a bad point. I think this is a point that puts Celtic one step closer to qualifying. I think it would take a minor miracle at this point for Celtic not to qualify. They're expected to beat Young Boys, but even if they get a draw against Young Boys, it would take a lot of results to go against them. Assuming they don't pick up anything against Aston Villa, even if they get one more point, that takes them on to 10, and it would take a lot of results to go against Celtic at this moment in time for 10 points not to be enough. But it could happen. But right now, I'd say that Celtic are probably 80%, 85% secured for the next round. But this did have the makings of a great Champions League campaign, and it's beginning to fizzle out. And it's not been bad by any means, but when they had that draw against Atlanta, then they followed it up with the win against Leipzig, it really did look like it could be a special campaign for Celtic, because you looked at the next 3 games, Club Brugge, Dynamo Zagreb and Young Boys. Not saying they're easy games, but they were 3 winnable games for sure. And at that point, I kind of had Celtic possibly getting into the top 8. I thought they could have done it. I thought if they picked up 9 points out of those 3, they were giving themselves a chance. But we've seen since then, they've had to settle for draws. So it is what it is. But let's look at the league table before we get into the comments. So Celtic with this point actually move up into 19th place. They're above Manchester City. Real Madrid unfortunately overtook Celtic tonight with a win. Their goal difference is now better. So Celtic need to finish in the top 24. They're currently in 19th. So they can afford to drop 5 places and still remain in the knockout playoff places. Now, the interesting thing is, if you look at the teams in the elimination playoffs, a lot of them are miles behind. Only Feyenoord at this point look like the only realistic team that could catch Celtic, because I believe they're on 7, Stuttgart are the next closest team, they're on 4. I think it's unlikely that these teams, some of these teams only 2 games left, some of them are 3, but I mean, these teams have only picked up at best 4 points. I think it's unlikely that they win 2 of the remaining games to magically overtake Celtic. If they haven't won 2 games at this point, I doubt they're going to win 2 games in the last 2. Now, obviously, I'm not sure what the fixtures are, but I would have to assume that none of these teams are going to catch Celtic, outside of possibly Feyenoord. I think Feyenoord are the only team that's going to do it. Now, Stuttgart have 3 games remaining. Sparta Prague have 3 games remaining. So if they win their next match they play tonight, so if they win that puts them on 7 points, then maybe, if Feyenoord win their game, that would put them ahead of Celtic. So look, these teams can catch Celtic, but I would say outside of Feyenoord, it's unlikely. So if Feyenoord do catch Celtic, then who below Celtic can also overtake them? Manchester City, yes. PSV, I would say yes. Juventus, yes, you'd expect that. PSG, yes, but Dynamo Zagreb are the team that I don't think will overtake Celtic, because I believe they've got, I think, Juventus and Arsenal in the last 2 games. I know it's 2 tough teams regardless, and they're already on -5 goal difference. So even if Celtic get a point against Young Boys, Dynamo Zagreb would need to win one of their last 2 games to overtake Celtic. I just don't see it happening. Even if Feyenoord did get in front of Celtic, I don't see Dynamo Zagreb getting in front of Celtic, and there's no guarantee that Man City, PSV, Paris and Juventus are going to do it. I mean, and who's to say that Celtic can't overtake some of the teams in front of them? But everyone always says, 9 points will be enough, 10 points, will be enough. But when you look at it, I don't think it is. I think you could be looking at teams you could be getting a couple of teams that get 10 points and go out, because if you look at the goal difference, right now Celtic have 9 points, but they are the lowest of the teams on 9 points because of the goal difference. You've got Benfica Atletico Madrid, Milan, Real, they all have positive goal difference, whereas Celtic have a neutral goal difference. So, yes, 10 points will get some teams through, I believe, but I don't think 10 points will get every team through. So, goal difference could be crucial. I still think Celtic will beat Young Boys. I don't think there's anything to panic about. However, I believe that after Celtic beat Leipzig, they were on 7 points. I think that Celtic would have believed that by this game, by the Young Boys game, they would have already had 10. I think that they'd have believed after those two good games against Atlanta and Leipzig that they probably would have got at least one win against Zagreb or Club Brugge, and it's just no happened. But I still think they'll go through. I'm pretty positive they'll go through, but it's not confirmed yet, and they still need at least a draw, I think, against Young Boys. If they get a draw against Young Boys, then they should be safe. If they lose to Young Boys, then I think they could be in trouble. So, or they'll need to do it the hard way by getting something against Aston Villa. So that's pretty much a wee update there on Celtic, but it is looking good for them. I can't really see them not finishing in the top 24. Flash Score says consecutive away clean sheets in Europe. NS says full strength 11 against a team who won at home, and you just about scraped through with a draw. A drawer? What the fuck's a drawer, mate? Put your cell back in the drawer and close it. What an idiot. Tamir Osiri says a dull game and might have won if Ida started, as he can go past defenders and win headers in the box, something that Brendan's first choice striker can't do. Can't work out why he started, as that's now 9 away games for a goal and just doesn't look like scoring. I mean, he started because Kyogo is 10 times the player Ida is. It's not rocket science. I mean, you can argue maybe Ida suits certain teams or whatever, but nah, Kyogo's a much better player, and for me, I'd always play Kyogo over Ida, so it is what it is. Quizling says shocking performance, so many sloppy passes, no creative ideas. Razor says brutal watch. If ever there was a game we could have won away, this was it. Felt as if the players never turned up. Hard point to swallow. At least it's a point though, because had Celtic lost this, they would have really needed to beat Young Boys. So, a point's better than nothing. Michael McDonald says, can't wait for Young Boy home game. We need Celtic Park rocking to get the win. Connor says, absolutely fucking embarrassing. Every single player on that pitch should be ashamed. It's mental, though, how successful Celtic have been. And, they have one game where they're not, playing great or whatever. They have one game where they don't get a good result, and the fans are going mental, saying it's fucking embarrassing. I mean, come on. Aho says, aren't you ashamed of being outplayed by Croatian farmers? Can't wait to watch Rangers, the biggest club in Scotland, beat Ange Spurs on Thursday. I wouldn't say Dynamo Zagreb are Croatian farmers. They're in the Champions League. They're the best team in Croatia. Or at least one of the best teams in Croatia. So they're hardly farmers. Croatian farmers would suggest that they're shite. I mean, the Croatian League's pretty high up the coefficient as well. So, I mean, Dynamo Zagreb, they aren't a shit team. But it's a winnable game. You look at it, and it's definitely a game that you would think Celtic have a better chance of winning compared to other teams in their fixtures. Score says, how do you expect the world to take Scotland seriously as a major European nation when you're drawn with these Yugoslavian bums? Yugoslavian bums. Was Croatia part of Yugoslavia? I don't think so. Don't think it was. In fact, I know it wasn't, so... they're not, unless this team was, or I don't know, was the Zagreb used to be part of Yugoslavia? I don't think so. I don't recall it being. I thought Zagreb was always part of Croatia, although I know the Croatian land, it's a weird shape. If you've ever looked at Croatia, it's a very weird shape. So I don't know how much land and territory they've lost over the last, 200 decades or whatever. But maybe, I don't know, maybe it could have been at one point. But I don't think it is, so I don't know why he's calling them Yugoslavian bombs. Redfan Loyal says, can't score against Dynamo Zagreb's B team. That's fucking embarrassing, lads. I don't know if it was a B team or not. Can't confirm nor deny that. But, I mean, it's not that bad a result. I think it's disappointing, but I mean, it's not embarrassing. Scott McIntyre said a point away is always decent, but that game was for the winning. We will also really need to get away from this giving new contracts to the likes of Forrest and Ralston, and certainly not offer Taylor one, as he's brutal. Taylor can have 10 good games, and then he'll have one bad game, and everyone's going to remember the bad game and just totally act like the 10 good games didn't happen. Taylor's had a lot of good games for Celtic, yet whenever there's a result that doesn't go their way, he's always the go-to guy. You know, he's always the fall guy. Same with like Ralston and then Forrest as well. I mean, why stop at those three players? Why not pick three players that, you know, had a bigger role tonight, or have had a bigger role in the disappointing European defeats? You know, it's not like Forrest and Ralston are constantly playing in Europe. I mean, if you're disappointed with the European games, you can't really say that, oh, we're not good enough in Europe, and then blame guys that don't really contribute in Europe. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't you blame some other players? Tony Tim says some of the comments on here are ridiculous. Not so long ago, we would have been hammered in that game tonight. It's a solid point. Puts us in a great position. Killian says point away from home in Champions League is good, but play like that on Sunday and we're not getting a trophy. Taylor playing a full 90 minutes is hilarious. Well, Killian thinks that if Celtic play like that, they're not beating Rangers in the League Cup final. Interesting. James McIreland says, missed opportunity, 3 points there for the taking, but we were absolutely brutal in the final third. John Boy, don't know what to make of that. The boys looked like they never moved out of first gear. A point's a point, I suppose. Roll on Sunday. Neil says, well, 3 points was the target. 1 point will do. Clean sheet away from home. Take the point. Move on to the cup final. And I think that's where we're going to end it, guys. We're going to move on now. Look, it's a decent point for Celtic. I would have rather they won, help the coefficient, boost the coefficient, secure the qualification, but I still think they'll get it done against Young Boys. Don't think there's any reason to panic. Celtic at home against Young Boys. I expect them to win that game comfortably. I don't think it'll be as easy as the Bratislava game, but I still think Celtic should win it by a few goals, and I don't think there's any reason to panic. However, if they draw against Young Boys, then there could be a possibility that Celtic do get knocked out, and they could end up finishing like 25th and not get that last spot. But I think they'll beat Young Boys. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Anyway, that's it, guys. Catch you in the next one. Till then, peace.